All right, friends. Happy Cinco de Mayo. So good to see all of you. Today is also Pesach Sheni. That means that in the ancient world, and the Torah describes this, when someone was unable to celebrate Pesach, Passover, when it was first scheduled, they had a chance the very next month. And this day is called Pesach Sheni, the second chance at Passover. Very interesting. Tells us that our notion that in the ancient world, they got it all right. And if only we could live up to their model. Well, this tells us that actually we deserve a second chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. They always have, especially in the eyes of God. Let's look a little bit at this week's Parsha too. Parshat Emor is so full of so much good and important stuff. Here's one aspect that we haven't yet discussed this week. The place of the priest in the ancient world was as a servant, to serve on behalf of the people to God, to bring the sacrifices. And there's a verse actually, and I'll just quote this from Leviticus 22, Vayikra Chaf Bet. God spoke to Moshe saying, "Instruct Aaron and his sons to keep themselves apart from the hallowed things, from the holy things, that the children of Israel consecrate to God, lest they profane my holy name." To stay away from the sacred things that the people bring, lest they profane my holy name. And the word for keep themselves apart is where I wanted to focus. And this comment is actually inspired by a commentary written by Rabbi Matthew Berkowitz, just appointed the vice president of the Schechter Institutes in Israel, a very wonderful, wonderful teacher and artist. He points to the word v'yanazru, to set themselves apart. And if you're familiar with some Hebrew, when you hear the word v'yanazru, you might hear the word nazir, which means someone who is kept separate. But what's really interesting about that is that it's not the only etymological, linguistic, visual connection to be made. Listen to how Rabbi Berkowitz brings in Rabbi Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, who's widely considered to be the father, the creator of what we now call modern Orthodoxy. So he says the basic meaning of Nazir definitely has the idea of exclusion from some sphere. So the priest would have to be separate. So listen to where he goes. The command that they keep themselves apart from the hallowed things accordingly makes the demand to the Kohanim, to the priests, not to consider themselves simply unconditionally entitled to holy things, which are handed over to them by the people. There are times when they have to consider themselves excluded from these things, to stand as strangers, and the word for stranger in Hebrew is zar, v'yanazru, toward them, and may neither deal with them for the sacrificial service nor eat them. Meaning, leaders often have prominent roles, but do those roles belong to them? How did any leader get to that place, and what is their responsibility once they have achieved a kind of power? We don't typically talk about the power that leaders wield. We only talk about that when the leaders go extremely wrong. So let's think for a moment about what it is to be a mindful leader. Each of us in our own way does lead. We are called to serve. I want to share just a quick quote that again Rabbi Berkowitz brings. This one's from Rabbi David Silber, who is the founder of the Drisha Institute here in New York, a place of incredibly important Jewish learning. He says, when the Torah speaks about the priestly gifts, it is always about the priests receiving gifts. It never discusses the priests taking. The Talmud goes even further, explaining that the priest is not even allowed to give the appearance of taking. He is supposed to wait until after the animal is sacrificed and the incense is burned on the altar. Only then may a priest gather up his priestly portion. This is what I want to say, and I'm so grateful for Rabbi Berkowitz bringing in these wonderful sources. Leaders often have to work hard to get to that place of power. And because of the sacrifices involved in being a good leader, a servant leader, it is possible to feel entitled. I got here, now it's my turn. The Torah comes to caution, as does the Talmud, as does later Jewish tradition, including Rabbi Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, and Rabbi David Silber, and Rabbi Matt Berkowitz, and you. We are all experts because we have witnessed the temptations of power. Sometimes we felt them ourselves. To be mindful of this is to recognize that a leader doesn't take. A leader may receive benefits and perks, as it were, of having achieved a significant level of leadership. To be such a servant of the people should come with a kind of compensation. No one's called to be a martyr in order to be a leader. We are called to be healthy as leaders. How powerful it is to think about leaders not taking, even when they're given things. It isn't about taking. It isn't about entitlement. It's about being appreciated and still being mindful. Let's hold on to that as we move into Shabbat. Let's sing our way into a good one, friends. Here we go. I hope you're singing wherever you are. Shabbos, friends. Have a really sweet one. See you on Monday.